How tall are you guys in feet? Let's go through one by one. Sam Mefson,
5'7".
Alex Social.
5'8". I employed other coaches for a little while. I had one guy who was like 5'10", and all the people signing up, they didn't want him because they thought he was too tall, therefore had too much of an advantage. So yeah, I'm 5'8" and like 174 centimeters. I put the
Oh,
camera here so I look tall.
damn, this is objectification. I don't know. Sam
Body
Overton.
shaming.
Just over 5'9".
Marcus.
I'm 6'2" on Tinder, but 6 foot in real life.
Playing with fire, Alex.
Yeah, I'm 5'10" and a half, 6 feet on Tinder.
Damn, wait, so all of you, apart from Marcus and me, are under 6 feet. So actually, that's a pretty good thing for the guys watching to know. My next question is, plenty of guys are using their height as an excuse for why they can't attract women. It's impossible, apparently. Some guys even look to try boosting their height by wearing shoe lifts. But imagine the surprise a woman gets when you get her in your room. She's ready to have sex. You take your shoes off, and suddenly, surprise, you're shorter than her. And then she accuses you of scamming her with your short ass legs and leaps. Obviously, that's a little far fetched. But some of you guys may be short. So, what advice can you give for our shorter comrades?
I got a good one for this one. Let me fire away on this one. So I have a group of friends who are like bankers and extremely wealthy business owners in Miami and New York. And all of those guys, they might be like 5'9", 5'10", a bit taller than me. And all of those guys use shoe boosts to go out in Miami and New York. So really high-end guys that I know do that, and they use the kind of shoes with those certain special sorts of heels. And then recently in Tokyo, I had a student who would have been like 5'3" or 164 centimeters. If I think that's 5'3", but he was little. He was a little guy, really good guy, worked for Apple, American guy living in Tokyo. And the problem was whenever girls would see him, they would immediately look at the guy and put him in the category of, friend zone or gay best friend or something like that. And then he went and did a bit of work, and he got these special shoes that added his height about 10 centimeters, popped him up to like 174 centimeters. It's like 5'7", 5'8". And then what happened for this guy was like magical. The girls would look at him and he'd be stylish with cool haircut and everything. And then they'll put him in the category of, okay, give this guy a chance. And then he got such positive feedback from that his personality came alive. He followed the process. His game was really good. And then all of a sudden he was really energized by that. And he said that exactly what happened in the question. Is he would get girls home and they would be surprised, but then they'd made such a good connection with his personality. They had such rapport. They'd already got so bought in that it didn't matter. And that's, a lot, like, for example, like a lot of guys they might be really good looking. They might have a really good game. They might be really wealthy, and the girl gets really bought in. The guy gets the girl home and he sucks in bed, but the girl's already bought in. She's like, okay, he can be shit at sex, but because I'm already bought in and he's a good person, I'll go for it. So to alleviate the worries of your listeners, once the girl's bought into you and she sleeps with you, all is good. She likes you, and once you're in, you're in. It's not a huge like bait and switch if you do use heel lifts or like high shoes or something like that. But the reality is, if you're probably under 6 foot, what is that, 5'5" or 5'6", probably 5'5", you're going to be having a little bit of trouble. So by all means, use it. I mean, girls use it all the time, and a very ignorant kind of like narrow-minded girl might judge you, judge you
Girls
like when
use
you
it
get
all the
home.
just to cut you
Yeah,
off a little bit. Girls use it all the time. These are eight
it's like
inches, so that would make you fucking ridiculously tall.
13 centimeters.
My wife
Yeah,
is like
I mean,
5'3" or something, so with that, she's
yeah.
closer, but not quite. But yeah, continue.
The legendary Jeffy from RSD, he had like massive boots that he would wear all the time. So guys, by all means do it, especially if you're looking for a bit of positive feedback when you're going out and socializing. Do it and then deal with the repercussions when you get there. It's better to get a chance than not have a chance at all. And do some Google searches online. There are these incredible shoe companies that sell the special shoes that give you about 9 centimeters, 2 or 3 inches. And that can make the world of difference, at least getting you a chance from the open rather than all that negative feedback because you are too short. And the reality is it is a thing. So it's good to do what you can about it.
I agree with everything Alex said. I would also highly recommend for shorter guys, even guys who are like actually like average height, to use them. I've never heard of a situation of a girl last minute being like, "Oh, you had 3-inch lifts in your shoes. I'm not gonna fuck you when she's back in your place." At that point, the girl's brought in. I mean, you'd have to like whip out a micro penis at that point for the girl to like. Even then, I think in some cases the girl will still fuck you if she really is into you. So yeah, so I think that's actually something every shorter guy should do. Because I think Alex is right. A lot of girls will instantly dismiss you. And once you're put in that like, yeah, don't really want to fuck this guy category, it's pretty hard to get out of that. And you know, you might not even get a chance to seduce the girl. If you're, you know, if she automatically dismisses you. So yeah, I mean, obviously that can only get you so far. If you're like 5'2", you can't have like 6-inch heels because that would be one, painful, and two, that would be like obvious. But you can go probably 3 inches at most, maybe 4 inches if you really want to play with fire, pun intended.
Yeah.
So yeah, so five. So I guess at that point you can, if you're 5'2", you can go up to like 5'5", 5'6". That's tricky. Another thing you can do is you can try to, like for your photos, don't do photos next to other people who are taller than you. That'll be one. That just goes for anyone. And two, take more shots of you sitting. So basically you don't look short in your photos to give yourself like that competitive advantage. And obviously don't put your height in the bio. Don't be like, I'm 5'3". There's no need to like shout that out. Yeah, that's probably it. But it is tough. Like I would agree that if you're a guy who's really short, that is really tough. That's one of the few things that is it's not an excuse, but it is legitimately, can be legitimately tough to overcome if you're extremely short. Versus other things can be fixed pretty easily. Like being overweight can be fixed. Even some facial deformities can be easily fixed, you know, with like some basic plastic surgery. But this either requires really intense surgery, which I don't advise anyone does, because
Yeah, don't do that.
you can totally fuck you up. And yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, what it is. It is a tough situation, but I do agree that using lifts and good photography is probably the best thing you can do.
Just to off-road a tiny bit here, did you say your advice is not to put height in Tinder bios?
If you're short, no.
All right, yeah, makes sense.
If you're tall, yeah.
According to Tinder statistics, height is the third most popular type of information. And second is zodiac signs. So, you know, some of these information things are going to be bullshit anyway. So that's just the thing for Tinder. People are always putting their height on there. But yeah, anyway, let's get back to the original question.
Also, if I could just add one more thing, there's actually
Yeah.
certain apps that are more favorable for shorter guys than there are taller guys. So, for example, on Bumble, girls can actually screen based on height. So, for example, Bumble can search 6 feet and over. And unless you're willing to lie by like 7 inches, which I don't recommend because that would be too much of an exaggeration, then you're just not going to show up on her radar. On Tinder, I believe, unless they changed it recently, a girl cannot filter by height. So you are going to pop up on her, whatever, when she's swiping in her deck. So there are certain apps that will be more beneficial for guys who are shorter.
I would
Yo,
also,
Alex.
I agree. I agree with all of the above. I would also just add on the more sort of psychological end of it. I think that across all sort of realms of life, you can always find one person who has the same deficit as you, if you think of it as a deficit, that has got success. And I think that's super important on just like a first principles basis to think, okay, if I think that my height is the reason that I can't get women, let me see if I can find one person who's the same height or shorter than me that has got women, and let me use that as my fuel. Because you only need to find one to prove that it's not, you know, critical, and it's not something that's going to completely paralyze you in the dating market. And I think Justin's a very good example of that. I hope he does come on, but even if you don't share his exact orientation, or you have very different goals or a very different lifestyle, I think Justin's a really good example of like someone who, you know, is slightly vertically challenged, but his mentality is just fucking go. His mentality is like, nothing is a handicap. I've got what it takes. I'm going to make it happen. And there's people like that across all realms. So whatever you think people think their problem is, all you have to do is find one person who has that same challenge, who's got the success that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
so
also think
that's
there's
perfect.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think exactly. If you want to do a practical thing, what I did, 5'7", I knew that would be like a psychological disadvantage. So I made a active thing of trying to sleep with girls that were taller than me. So I break that image, break that belief. So one day, the tallest girl has been 6'2" that I've got. And there's nothing more humiliating than trying to do it in doggy style and have to stand up while she's on her knees. There is nothing more just humbling about that. But
That's pretty
I will
funny.
say, I met the owner of Konzuri, the what you guys are talking, the height boosting shoes. You can also do Alexander McQueen shoes. They have about 2 inches on them, 2 to 3 inches, and they're quite good and they're also stylish. At the end of the day, again, if we look back, I did a tweet a long time. Short guys, you've got Marlon Brando, you got James Dean, some of the biggest seducers in the world. You got Dan Bilzerian at 5'9", Kanye at 5'8". You had you had Floyd at 5'7", you have Kevin Hart at 5'3". So a lot of the time it's like, work on building yourself as a man. Like if you're 5'4" and a piece of shit and fat and broke and lazy, well, that's not going to be in your advantage. It's like you don't have the requirement. Like if I want to compete with both the Alexes, Alex and Mark, it's like I have to have my shit together. Like I have to be more fitter. I don't have the height there. So I have to have a more ripped body. It's just part of what happens. You have to compensate. And I always say, if you're short, the one thing is you're not seen because you're short, right? So you have to develop your personality. Develop your personality, you're heard before you're seen. That is really good. So expanding the personality as much as possible because you're versing someone that is you're 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", 5'10", 5'11". It's like they're in the ideal range. Girls are looking up. And so, but if you can be heard, they're going to be more attracted to someone that has multiple personality, can captivate them, the attention there, then height goes out the window.
I really
That's
want to
true. Yeah,
highlight that
I
thing
had a lot
you
of oh, sorry, man.
I'll
I had a lot of
just
students on a program recently, on a 4-week program, and half of them were quite tall, these Norwegian guys. And one thing that girls would say to me on dates, because I'm in the short category, on the short end of the scale, is that height is not a personality. So a lot of tall guys, they rely on that, and their personality is shitty because of that. They think I'm tall, girls are going to look at me, and then their personality sucks. So as especially really attractive girls who have a lot of dating experience, they know that a lot of tall guys think that height's a personality, but it's not. And they're even more open-minded. This is shit going around on TikTok called short king spring, short king summer or something. So they're open to it. They're genuinely open to it. And I've had so many students on the immersion programs. This one short Pakistani guy who's like 5'6" or 5'5" had like eight lovely girls in a month. It's incredible. Anyway, sorry, keep going, Ice.
Oh yeah, thanks. I really liked Sam's point at what he said at the very start. That you made it your mission to specifically find taller women. I think like all men who have this limiting belief or who think they're disadvantaged by height should adopt this mission because shouldn't this be exciting? It's just like that is a funny story about the doggy style thing. But isn't that wonderful that you're able to tell a story like that instead of going, wow, wow, I'm too fucking short to do anything. So if anything, the guys who are listening who are below 6 feet tall should be encouraged to actually make this a fucking mission. This is like some raid in a video game type of shit. This is something that should excite you. That's a really interesting mission that guys should adopt.
Yeah, there's
Already.
nothing more exciting than playing Tootsies with a girl that's tall and you think you're touching her toes, but you're actually touching her kneecaps.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things here as well. I I think we need to be careful with the mindset that guys start to develop based off like data, because I think you can look up, like I see this in the red pill space, like you can look up data from Tinder where girls are screening for height, right? There's that whole I need a guy that's 6 foot. But I think if we actually look at relationships and who women are sleeping with, typically it's guys that are just taller than them. So there's a fairly even distribution in the data of like guys that are getting laid based on their height. It's not just this 6 foot cutoff that only guys over 6 foot are getting laid. That's maybe what it looks like when you ask girls on Tinder. But I think that would be the same for us. If you put us in a situation where we're like, yo, there's suddenly over one night 3,000 girls that want to sleep with you. We're going to be like, what the fuck? How do I filter out these people? So yeah, if we're on Bumble, we're probably going to filter out like, yo, big titties only, or like, super slim girls, or like whatever your preference is. Now, in a real life situation, if we're out at a club and some girl comes up to us, she doesn't have the perfect tits or like, but she's still hot and she's chatting to us. We're not going to be like, oh, actually, excuse me, because of that like scenario that you put me in front of where I had 3,000 people to choose from and I didn't want that. If you're in person with someone and you're attracted to them, you're attracted to them. So typically what that means for women is just a little bit taller than them, right? Or as Sam was speaking about before, if you're just attractive anyway, then they're usually not going to give a fuck. And that's where the halo effect comes in. I can't tell you how many girls think I'm like 10 foot, right? Like I have situations where I run like BDSM scenes where, I'm flogging the girl. I
Wait,
then have
what?
it down on her knee, up at me. Dude, these girls, they will tell me like, I didn't realize how tall you were. Holy shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I didn't grow since like drinks at the bar or some shit. Like I'm the same height, but the perception changes. And this goes, I have fat students that are like wobbling down the fucking street pulling girls, and girls don't realize like how fucking physically unattractive they are because you have an attractive, as Sam said, personality. So I think it's one, like keep in mind that women are just gonna sleep with you if you're attractive anyway. Don't fucking, and this goes for any guys, frustrates me. It goes for any guy that has like that one insecurity, whether it's where you're from, whether it's your height, whether it's like, I don't know, you're going fucking bald or some shit. Guys will just blame everything on that one thing as if like their game doesn't suck. Okay. So if you're not getting goals, it's probably, my guess is probably not that one thing you think it is. It's probably like accumulation of things. So fix everything else. But otherwise, I agree. Just to summarize, the elevated shoes, show that you like tall women. That's a nice pre-selection. If you show that you've been with a bunch of tall girls before, it's kind of helpful for the girl to you remove some of that like social pressure. Measure your height like a female. So, me and Alex were joking before about our height, but do that, like increase it on Tinder, because women, if they see 6 foot, they think that you're probably like 2 inches shorter than that. So bump it up. But yeah, that would be, as a tall guy, my dating advice for being short.
Interesting. I liked that the point you were making about the difference between the physical world and dating apps. So, for example, obviously she could filter out guys if she has that option. But if you're in person, it's not like she can delete you from existence. All she can do is turn the other way and walk away. Being in person is just a completely that is the default. This online thing is a new form that has only existed in the last few decades. So the entire system is different. So I just want to make sure that guys don't get confused between how the internet works and how the physical universe works. Just like Marcus was saying. Any last comments before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it's not even just the internet, and social media definitely exaggerates that problem, but it's even like pre and post conversation. I'm sure everybody that's had clients, you take them out and they'll say like, no, none of these girls are hot. They're not my type. She's too tall. She's too fat, whatever. They'll say this stuff. But when you get them to actually go and start talking, they start to realize that that woman is actually quite attractive. So I think it's even like not just the online space versus reality. It's like reality before you've engaged with someone and reality after you've engaged with them. Even as as men, we reframe the woman once we've started engaging with her and having a conversation. Like she can become more or less physically attractive based on the way she communicates. So I think it's just like levels to it. And the more you know about someone, the more you're able to reframe them. And that goes for men and women.
Interesting.